Okay, hello. So we are live. Welcome to this discussion for our book club. This is our June pick of the month, The Sword of Kaigen. If you guys didn't know, we have a book club where we read one adult fantasy a month. And for the month of June, we were reading The Sword of Kaigen. If you guys want to go join us, I will leave the link will be in the down bar below. And so yeah, we are missing a few people this month, but it's fine. We still wanted to do this discussion because I think most of us really like this book, so we wanted to talk about it. So I will let everyone introduce themselves and then maybe just tell us your rating for the book. So yeah, if you guys want to start.
Oh, yeah, I can start. Hi, I'm Laura. My channel is called The Reading Mushroom. I haven't been that active lately, but I hope to be again soon. So I would probably rate this book a 3 stars. So for me, it wasn't that great of an experience. Yeah, I know I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Yeah,
Right?
I'll talk about why later on. But I'm not the #1 fangirl for this book. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Gabby from the channel Gabby's Arcanum. I haven't been that active lately as well because my life is going crazy, but I'm going back to it. And I rated this book 5 stars because there weren't more stars. I love this book so much. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did.
Oh, wow. I'm Ariel from Reading and Whatnot, and I gave it a 5-star rating because it's probably the best fantasy book I've read in a really long time.
Okay, and so I'm Lawrence, you're on my channel, and I rated this book 4.5 stars. I love this book up until the last chapter, which we'll talk about later, but I loved this book as well. It was really, really good. I think I'll just do a really quick summary, just in case someone is watching and haven't read the book, and then I guess right after we'll go into a spoilery section. So basically, this book, we follow a family, the Matsuda family, that lives on this piece of land called the Sword of Kaigen, where they have stayed very in their traditional ways. They are very military based, what's called culture. But the rest of the world has evolved past them, and they have technology, and they have modern things. And basically, our story picks up when there's new kid that comes into the schools, and then they are in this history class, and they are listening to what the teacher is saying, and this new kid is basically laughing at the course because he's like, what are you guys learning? This is not what happened for real. This is not true. And this is where we learn that this little village has been fed propaganda by the government, because the government basically needs them to stay very traditional and very a warrior ways, because they are the front line if ever they get attacked, and they are basically the front line for that. So that's why the government has been fed propaganda to them. And this is basically where our story picks off, and we follow 2 main characters. We follow Misaki, which is kind of this older woman. She's this middle-aged woman. She's been through life. She had 4 kids, I believe, which was really interesting for me because I don't think we see that many older women in fantasy. Though that was really interesting. And then we also follow her older son, Mamoru, and he has a lot to live up to because his father and then his uncle are these great warriors, and so he has a lot of pressure on his shoulder. So basically, those are our 2 main characters. And this is also where I kind of want to start our discussion, because in my opinion, the characters in this book were the highlight of the book. For me, it's really where everything shines, where the author shines. So I kind of wanted to have your perspective on these characters and what you thought of them, and maybe your favorite characters in this book.
Who wants to go first?
Actually, I think Misaki is 30 something.
Yeah, I think she's in
I think so.
Yeah, in her mid-30s. Yeah,
but if she's written in an older way, I feel like.
I was gonna say, am I a middle-aged woman? Great.
I'm 32, so yeah, I guess.
I thought she was great. I think that the book for me at the beginning, I was like, holy crap, this is taking forever to get to a point. But then when I started getting to know Misaki and Mamoru, were our two sort of main characters, she is my new favorite female protagonist ever. And I saw a lot of Mamoru, well, should I say, I saw a lot of her in her son, if that makes sense.
That is something that you say that, because in the beginning she's saying how she kind of wished she had daughters because she didn't see her in her kids. So I thought it's interesting that you say that, because it was like a big part of why she didn't feel like maternal for her kids, because she couldn't see herself in them.
Yeah, even though they didn't share verbally or even physically, I think a lot of his character traits come from his mother. Mm-hmm. Which I think is that takes you from nature versus nurture. So definitely nature there, unfortunately.
In my case, I got hooked from the beginning. I know there is a like some info dumps, especially in chapter 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the history class basically.
That was like a history class. It's like of dump truck.
And I'm like, oh, okay. But I was like, yeah, sure. Like, talk to me about that. I don't care. And then, it was one chapter. But I love the setting from the beginning. This idea of having this very traditional environment isolated from the rest of the world, and that they were brainwashed by the empire. I really loved that idea. And well, the characters, it's very interesting that Misaki is the one that she's lived her dreams. Actually, her dreams die. I think this is I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I think that Misaki is one of the strongest female characters because she is the story is about her living after her dreams died and how she goes forward. This is not, it's very unique because it's not a story about dreams that are dead, but you have to awaken them and go for them. No, her old dreams are already dead and that's over. And she has to go forward to get what comes next. And I really like that idea from the very beginning. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, I like seeing her, there's flashback in this book, and we see her in the past how she's really strong-willed and she's really a strong female character, and then we see her in the present and she's a little bit less strong. She doesn't necessarily stand up for herself as much, but I think I like seeing that and how then she goes back a little bit to her old self in the end, and it tells us a lot of the culture basically in this little village, how it's very much you have to honor and respect are really important, and you can't speak up and you cannot talk back to people, especially men, her as a woman. So I really like seeing her growth in character.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I really like the beginning because I like world building. I like books that start slow and give us an introduction to the world. I also didn't mind the info dump, so that was totally fine with me. But I don't know, for me, the problems that I had with this book started later on, but I think I also liked Misaki. But I didn't really like where her character ended. So I think that I liked the development she went through in the book, but I didn't like how her relationship with her husband ended in the book. I totally couldn't get behind that. I thought it was horrible. I don't know. It was totally not for me. I don't.
What about it?
Yeah. So I have to go a bit forward. So I really like the scene where the two of them fought. So they had this big battle. So that was awesome. I really liked that scene. But for me, so Takeru, her husband, he has been this super abusive husband through most of the book, and I didn't like him at all. I despised him.
Yeah,
so most of the time I despised him. And after that battle, for me, it felt like she warmed up to him a bit too fast. Does that make sense? So I didn't like how fast she went from, oh, I totally don't like him. He's like ice. He doesn't have any emotions. He doesn't care about me at all. And then she's like, oh yeah, I guess it wasn't really fine, but I think that so for me this development felt too fast, and I didn't like that. I don't
think
know.
it was a gap of time, like between
Yes.
fight and then when they actually warm up, there is a gap of time there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But when they are done with the fight, they go back to the village, and then this assassination attempt happens. I don't know. It just, to me, it didn't feel that natural how they warmed up to each other in that moment. I don't know.
I can understand where you're coming from that, but for me personally, I saw it as they got everything out during their duel, and it was like getting all your frustrations out and just letting everything go, and then after that, because they had both let things go that they were holding in, they just kind of they walked out of it different people, a different couple.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's just that I did not like Takari at all. So he was, I don't know, every time he was on screen, I was like, oh God, him again. And
He was kind of an ass.
Yeah, but
it was horrible.
Do you guys have a feeling that we don't like Takeru because we're seeing him through Misaki's eyes? Like, it probably has to do a lot of it, because I feel like there's moments when you see him and you know there's more to him than what we see, right? I don't know. There's there's moments when you're like, oh, I'm sure he's frustrated as well, and I'm sure he wants to say something, but we're only seeing him through Misaki's eyes, so we're just feeling her frustration. So you know, there's a moment when the teacher dies, and then he comes and like he touches his son's shoulders. And at first he thinks it's his uncle, but in that moment I was like, I'm sure there's more to him that we just don't get to see because we're seeing him through Misaki's eyes.
Yeah, but especially when we found out that he feels the mountain, like he is the mountain.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so cool.
But imagine he didn't just know his son and brother died, he felt it. That must be horrible to like live through that.
It's like the Matrix.
I really like that in this book, every single character that appears in more than one page has an arc, has a sort of arc.
Yeah.
There's no character left out in this story. Like, for instance, like Misaki's friends, Setsuko, who I love. She's
awesome. She's awesome.
And how was it called? The other girl, Yukino, Hiyori.
Yeah,
she was the other, and that was devastating. Like her arc, her story was devastating. I was horrified when Misaki went to look for her, and this guy was raping. I had to like leave my Kindle for a moment and like process it.
That part bothered me, but not as much as the end of her story. Her suicide, and then what happened to her child after the fact. Like she was a forever reminder, but she didn't have a name. They like just sort of like the town kind of gave her. And it's like, what kind of life is that kid gonna have? And we're never gonna know because it's a standalone. But still, that broke my heart.
I like the scene where Misaki is telling her like, that's your kid, even though like his dad is his dad, like you get like she's part of you as well, you get to like influence her. I thought it was like full circle on how she felt with her kids, and she got to like understand that even if they're guys and they're like Takari's children, she got like they had a piece of her, and then she got to tell that to her friend as well. I really like that little moment.
That's true.
I really like their friendship.
So
honest.
All
this book was
go ahead.
Oh, I think all these characters had a really honest, how do I put that? They had an honest feel about them. They felt like real people. And I think that's a hard thing to, at least in my opinion, reading fantasy books. Sometimes the characters aren't as believable as some other ones, but in this book, all of them were believable, and none of them were perfect either. They were beautifully flawed, every single one of them.
Yeah, I think Setsuko. Oh, sorry.
No, well, I was gonna say I like the three friends because it felt like an Asian soap opera at some point. Especially in the beginning, when they're like talking and everything, it felt like a little soap opera thing, and I really like that little scene.
What? I didn't understand it. What?
Like all the friends together, like when they're all talking together, it felt a little bit like a little Asian soap opera. I just like that.
Yeah. I mean,
so what did you guys think?
Go.
Well, I was going to say, what did you guys think of Mamoru?
I loved him.
And his art.
I loved him. I loved his whole story. Like, I know this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but the end of his story, after his death, like as he's dying, it's like you don't know whether or not he knows he's dying for sure. And he's thinking about telling his family about that he conjured the Whispering Blade. And I listened to this. And when that part happened, I was doing dishes. I had to take my headphones out and sit down, and I cried. And like I got pink gloves on my hands because I'm washing dishes and I'm crying, and I've got like soapy water on my face. And I'm just like, I can't do it. It was very sad.
Yeah, the part when they say like his younger brother, like years later, they're gonna think that his younger brother was the youngest person to conquer the Whispering Blade, but no one knew that like he was actually the one who do it. That was so sad.
Yeah, that was really sad too.
Bad. I remember I was reading in the couch, and my brother came downstairs and saw me, and I was like wet, like sobbing so much, like crying my eyes out, and he was like, what happened? And he died.
I know.
He died. And they will never know.
Yeah, right? I did not expect him to die. I thought the mom was gonna die actually, but I was shocked. I don't know why I thought that Misaki was gonna die, because they're going back and forth, and like we don't really know if he's dead, and then like and then he comes back, oh no, he's not dead, see him, but then he actually dies. I thought the mom was gonna die, and then he was gonna have to deal with that aftermath. But yeah, I did not expect him to die.
I did from the moment you knew there was going to be like a battle, like when the tornado started coming up, I was like, oh no, he's gonna die. And I'm like, I hope not. And then he dies, and I was like, God no.
So I guess for me it was kind of shocking because before that point, I didn't expect that book to get so violent, and I didn't expect so many people to die. And then I was very sad when the teacher died, because I thought he was a nice guy, and was like, oh no, he's dead. And then when Mamoru left his uncle, and he was like, yeah, he's going to die. And I was like, what? No, not him too. And then he went and fought the other guy, and he was like, and then he died. And I was, what? Why is everyone dying? And then they were like, yeah, like 30 people survived. And what? Where's everyone?
Yeah.
It's just
horrible.
Yeah. Well, it's like this book is really dark in a lot of places. It's like almost sort of grim dark in certain places. And some of it's like really, really, really sad.
Yeah.
And the whole book, I was like, why am I so sad? But I got to keep going because I want to know.
Yeah, I guess that was one aspect for me why I didn't really enjoy this book. So I wanted to keep going to know what was going on. But to me, it felt a bit like torture to get through, because everything was so depressing. And I didn't really enjoy myself while reading this depression all the time. I don't know. It's just, I don't mind darker stories. But in this book, it was super depressing most of the time. And
I think it's too emotional, maybe. Like, for me, it was a roller coaster of emotions, nonstop. And maybe it was too much. Like, I understand. I was addicted to this book, but I was crying all the time. Like, every time Misaki thought about Mamoru after he died, I would start crying.
Aww.
Like, terrible. I was...
Yeah. So for me, even though I thought it was very depressing in general, I didn't feel that many emotions, so I didn't cry once. Once I came close, it was kind of sad. I don't really remember which scene it was. I think it was when Misaki and Takeru were fighting. I think that scene made me a bit teary-eyed, but most of the time it didn't feel that
In the
sad
dojo?
for me. No, when he was like after Mamoru's death, when Takeru went to the mountain to meditate, and then Misaki challenged him to the duel. That scene, I really liked that scene. I think that was the best scene in the book. I really, really liked that because they were getting closer and coming to an understanding, and I really liked that. And I think that made me a bit teary-eyed. But for most of the time, I don't know. Maybe I didn't connect to the characters that much. It's hard for me to explain, but I don't know. I really wanted to like it because I think the setting in general and the idea that the bigger part of the story takes place after the battle is done and they have to deal with all this death and devastation, which is so rarely done in fantasy stories, I think. I mean, to that extent. That was great. I really liked that, even though it was depressing at times. But I don't know. Maybe I couldn't connect to the characters that well, and that's what kind of diminished my enjoyment of this book, I guess.
Yeah.
I get that.
What you said, like the structure of this book is really unique. I think it's really different from what we're used to in fantasy books. Because the main climax comes in the middle of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a second climax that is, and both of them are so different. One is like the whole external conflict, and the second one is like more intimate, like all the consequences it had for the family after the battle. And it feels weird because the last chunk of the book, it's like aftermath of all that happened. I mean, I didn't mind. I really liked it. I did like the last chapter, but like I know there's a lot of people. There are a lot of mixed feelings about the last chapter. But
I liked it.
What I'm trying to say is that the structure is really weird, but it really worked for me.
Yeah, same. I like seeing all the aftermath of the battle and the war, and seeing how the village had to like put themselves back up, and how they were trying to rebuilding everything. And I really like seeing all the aftermath, and we rarely see it to that extent. So that was really cool to see.
I liked that as well. I think the thing after the battle that was the hardest for me was the body pit, and then they just kind of burned it. And that, I mean, not just because Mamoru was in it, but like that's like they were just trying to erase it, and that brings like the whole political thing into it. And I think can't talk. I think the political stuff was really strong, especially after the battle, with them coming and going to sort of check up on things. But like that part where they're just like, we're just going to erase it and pretend it didn't happen. And I'm like, holy crap. It was a lot.
Yeah, I really like I mean, I love the reading the aftermath because usually in fantasy it happens so much that there's a lot of glorifying war, glorification of war. And this is like breaking down like the real consequences of it all, like the horror that it is. And on top of that, the Empire, like you said, the Empire comes and says like, oh yeah, you know what? It didn't happen anything here. Like just stay put, we're gonna burn the bodies and everything's fine. And I'm like, I wanted to kill that general's son, I think.
Same.
Me too.
He was an ass.
I felt that it was a little bit weird because the Empire is like, there's so much, they're controlling so much narrative there, where like they're saying, oh, you have to say that everyone died in the storm, like this battle never happened. But then like in the beginning, when Quan, his name is, like the new kid, when he comes in, like if they're trying so much to control like the information that this village has, why do they just accept that like a new kid comes in and like can just say like, oh, you're not like, this is not true, everything you're learning is not true? Like I would think that the empire would like not let anyone come in this village, you know?
I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent. His father was probably briefed, being like, hey, they don't really know what's going on around, you know, everywhere else. Shush. And then he probably told his son to shush. And he was like, nah, I'm not going to shush.
No.
And then when they fall and they land on that glass plane, and that was a turning point for Mamoru, because he opened up the hatch and saw the remnants of the person that was in it. And he was like, holy crap, they don't give a crap about us. And at that point, I really thought he was going to have like a very strong victory storyline. And then the battle started. I'm like, no, he's going to die. No. And then he died.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at that point I was like, oh, so now the battle is starting. And then I thought it would go on till the end. And then I thought maybe when the battle is done, we'll get like a time skip and we will see Hiroshi when he is older. And then I was like, so what is going to happen? So with this book, I have to say, I could never guess what was going to happen next. So for me, it was always surprising how the story went. And I really enjoyed that aspect in the story, because I had no idea where it was going and what it was trying to accomplish. So
is that why you gave it 3 stars? Is that why you gave it a higher rating?
Yeah, I was thinking about giving this like a 3.5, but that would like round it up to a 4. And I think my main problem, I can see why people like this book. I can see why this book is very beloved and why everyone's like, oh, this is a great book. I guess for me, it just was very depressing. And that's why I couldn't really enjoy the book while reading it. And that made it hard for me to continue, because I was like, I know I want to finish this, but I don't enjoy my time spending with this book. But on the other hand, it's very good. And I don't know. I still have to make up my mind. I just finished this today, so I'm not really, I have to sleep on it.
Oh, it's so fresh. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I just finished it. So maybe tomorrow I'll be like, oh yeah, this is a 5-star book. This was amazing. But I can see why people like it, and I can see the qualities in this book. It's just, it was hard for me to read because of the themes and how they were portrayed.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you guys, we're talking about the plot a little bit. What did you guys think of the flashback with Misaki's storyline? Did you like those? Did you think?
I did. Laura's like, I loved it, because I love seeing her backstory. I loved seeing where she came from, the romance that she sort of had, the badassery of her-ness. Like, I loved all of that. I wanted more of that, actually.
Really?
I would have liked more of that. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Look, I grew up with like Xena Warrior Princess being on TV all the time. So like any woman with like a sword or a blade or a stick and they're beating people up, I'm like, yes, do it. So I liked it.
Yeah, I did not.
I can tell.
Yeah.
In your face. You're like,
no,
I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, go on. Sorry.
Oh, I really, really enjoyed it because the badassery, yeah, she is such a badass in so many ways. She's a storm, like her name says it. Like she is a storm. And I really enjoy how she also in her past, she faces her family and faces the other, like defending her culture, although she was not totally, she didn't agree fully with what her culture said. She always defended it, and that shows a lot of what, like, it's not as easy as just like cutting ties with your culture. And I think that was really well portrayed in the flashbacks. I don't know if that sorry, I'm all over the place. I don't know how to talk about this book because I've tried to film like twice a review for this book,
Same.
and I can't. And I
Yeah,
can't.
same.
But yeah, I really love the flashbacks.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I like the beginning, I like the world building, I like the setting up. I was kind of surprised when it was revealed that the story was taking place in a modernized world, because from the beginning you wouldn't get that, because the place they're in, Takayubi it's called, it's so backwards compared to the rest of the world. And then we're like, okay, that's interesting. We got a more civilized world than I thought. And then the chapter with the past came on, and I was like, oh, so we're in a superhero story now. And it was like, what the hell is going on? And it was just so weird. And I have to admit, I was skimming through the book, and I was like, when is this going to end? And this chapter was really long, and it was like
really long.
oh, it's going on forever.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for Robin.
Same.
And
Yeah,
I
I didn't
didn't
really
care for her other
really
friend and the backstory at the school. And I felt it was, I think if the story came back later on, if more of a past was being dealt with in this book, I think I would have minded less. But because it was just this one chapter and then the final chapter a little bit, it felt so disjointed from the rest of the story that I just was like, why? I don't know. I mean, I guess it was so that they could introduce the Robin character at the end of the book because it connects to her other books. But I don't know. I did not like that. I did not like it at all.
I have the
Doesn't
feeling
this
that
connect to a trilogy? Is that it? This
is,
connects to a trilogy?
I don't know if it's a trilogy, but her other series, it's Robin's kid in that trilogy, in that series. So I think what she was trying to do is tie up because it's the same world. So she was tying those two stories in together.
Okay. I knew there were more books, sort of, but I wasn't sure what it was.
It's a YA, that one. It's like a YA fantasy series.
Okay. You learn something new every day.
I disagree with what you said about like that the chapter maybe was just to introduce Robin, because I think it introduces the reason why Misaki is so miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because she, like the main conflict in the beginning is that she is terribly miserable with her life, a life that she chose, but she doesn't like her frustration because she doesn't feel connected with her sons, and that is terrible. And I want to talk about that later, but I think and that chapter tells you why the reason she had so many cultures in her life, so like she came to love someone and she decided because of her family to leave it all behind for having a husband who doesn't talk to her, for he not being able to speak up, to do anything else than just wash the dishes and sew and cook, and have like a baby in her arms that she didn't really want. And I don't know, like that chapter I think is very important because it tells you like who Misaki is actually.
Agreed.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think, for me personally, I would have liked a bit more of that because it was just this one chapter and it felt like it didn't like a whole different story. But I can see why you say that. Yeah, I have to agree. Yes, I just didn't like it. I'm sorry.
We could have had more of that, and I think it would have made him coming in at the end that much more special.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been cool.
Yeah,
it felt just a little too long for me. I like the idea of it, and like I like what it did, but it was just too long, and it was just like another like not info dump, but like was just big part of the book that was her backstory, and then we got back, and I didn't dislike it as much as Laura, I think, but it wasn't my favorite part. I felt like disconnected with the rest of the storyline. I felt like.
Yeah.
So
can
I ask
that.
a question? So how did you feel about all the terminology in the book. So like she made up a lot of words for minutes and seconds and all those places, because she made up this whole world and it's really huge. And there were a lot of things that were thrown at us. And I mean, there's a glossary at the end, so you can look up those terms. How did you feel about those? Did you mind them?
I liked them. I felt like the way, I mean, it was it was so Japanese.
Yeah, it was very
that
Japanese.
I really enjoyed that. I love Japanese culture, and it felt so close to that I was like really excited, because I don't know.
I didn't mind it. Normally when I read a fantasy book and they make up words for like minutes, seconds, and hours, I'm like, why do you need to do that? Just say minutes, seconds, hours, so I don't have to figure out which is which. So like, I find that personally really annoying. It didn't bother me. There were a few times where I was like, wait, okay. So I have to, because I listened to it. So there was no glossary for me. I had to look it up. So I was like, so that was kind of annoying, but it didn't really bother me. Once I figured it out, I was like, okay, this is cool. I don't really know a lot about Japanese culture, aside from where video games started and how big they got and stuff like that. Like other than video games, I don't know anything about Japan. So it was really cool to get a little feel of that and then do a little Google search on my own and find out other things. So
For me, it was like when I started reading and I read this, like they said, Matsu no Dono, like this way. I felt like I was reading a manga for a while, like in the first chunk, and I was like, oh, I'm really excited.
Yeah,
I felt
think
that way when they were fighting in the dojo. It felt like a manga in the dojo.
Yeah, I think in the second to last chapter, when they were, no, it was the last chapter when they were having this conversation with Robin, and Takeru was talking in Japanese and his wife was translating. That was just Japanese, so that wasn't even a made-up language. It was just, Japanese stuff. I recognized those words, so it was weird, but I was like, oh yeah, I can understand parts of that sentence.
I know words. I know words.
Was it written in Japanese?
I know it was written in like Latin characters.
With Occidental characters,
yeah,
like, it was in Japanese.
Oh, in the audiobook it was just English.
Characters, it was just like our letters, but in Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh no, in the audiobook it was just like you heard the same thing over and over in English. So that makes so much more sense now. I was so confused.
Really? That they just that's weird. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's like that they're translating, but they don't translate it in a different language. It's just like he wants me to translate. So I figured they were having a conversation, but it was kind of like sometimes it would be back and forth, and sometimes it'd be like, oh, I just got to let him know what he said. And I'm like, what is like? That was the most confusing part for me, and now it makes sense. See. Yeah. I like audiobooks because I can do other things, but when it comes to an audiobook that has that in it, I prefer to have the physical book so I can either A, follow along, or B, take turns in between the physical and the audio. So that makes so much. Thanks, guys, for clearing that up.
Weird. I know I read a Fall Love Story as an audiobook, but they were speaking in Vietnamese. Like when it's written in Vietnamese in the book, in the audiobook, it's Vietnamese. So it's all like English. They didn't translate it. So I would think they would have done the same thing for a.
Maybe I listened wrong. I don't know. I just remember being really confused during that part, and I'm like, wait, what? Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. But either way, I was confused, and you guys cleared that up for me. So thank you.
Yeah. So what I was wondering, so there were some tidbits of other languages in this world, if those languages were real as well, because I did not recognize them, but I don't know that many languages. But you didn't recognize any of those either, right?
No.
I guess. Because that would be interesting to know. I don't know. I would like to know about that.
If she made up some language for the book, that would be interesting. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, or I mean, she took Japanese because that was Japanese. And if the other languages are all made up, I don't know. I sometimes
I have the
that's
feeling
something to look up.
that she inspired the Ranganese, the enemy in China.
Yeah,
it's very,
It was very clear. Like,
yes.
So maybe it could be, if it's not made up, it could be like a dialect from China.
Maybe.
Could be, yeah.
So what do you guys think of the magic system in this book? Because I think it was a really cool magic system.
Look
and
at
a lot of
Gabby.
people,
Right?
a lot of people were saying it was very similar to the Avatar: The Last Airbender. So what did you guys think of it?
Go, Gabby. We know you want to.
Yeah.
Because her and I have already talked about this.
Huh?
You and I have already talked about this.
Yeah, I really, really like. I like elemental magic in general. I love bending in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this had a very similar feel to it, but it was different at the same time. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that their power affects their personality as well, like how they are, how cold, how you say,
you mean their emotions affect their Gia?
Emotions, yeah, like the way they are cold, like because they control water. They control water, and Robin, for instance, is totally different because of he controls fire. He's a firebender, and also I really enjoyed this have like how they, when they talk about the water molecules in the air, like it was very specific because they were like controlling every bit of water they could in the air and inside the body. Is like blood bending. I'm sorry, it's just so Avatar. But
I agree with Gabby. We both really loved it because it was so much like Avatar. And for people that don't know, I'm obsessed, totally obsessed with the Avatar universe. And so between the fact that they're Gia for them, because they control water and ice, can get so like it can get big or small depending on how they're feeling. Like when what's her husband's name again?
Takeru.
There we go. Whenever he's in the bed and he actually shards that he's the one who causes the ice shards to sort of like come up, and she thought it was her. I could you imagine waking up and they're like, you're just impaled because you were upset when you went to bed? Like, I don't know. Like, I thought that was really cool. The blade was really cool. Like, anything with elemental magic, I think, is just amazing. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like the magic system. No complaints from me this time. No, I also liked how the people in the world were structured, because you had the Theonites, who are like the elemental magic, like water, fire, and air. And then you have the sub-Theonites with the light and sound, I think. And then you have the Arden, who are just normal humans. And I think that was very interesting because you have also like a rank system there. And I think in general, this world had a very rich history. So I would like to know more about this world, because there are many other places. And I think those are interesting. But I like the magic system. So I'm going off track again. Sorry. I like the magic system.
That makes me wonder if maybe she could write another book just with maybe a different element or a different something. Just same universe, different. Yeah, just different story. Maybe different element this time. That'd be cool.
I hope so.
She said she wouldn't write anything else. Yeah. Sadly, she said she wouldn't write anything else in this world. So I think it's the last of it.
Don't hurt my feelings.
It's sad. But I really like the magic system as well. I think it was very similar to Avatar, like we said. So it was easy for us, I think, to visualize like what was happening, but it was different enough that it wasn't like exactly the same. There were like enough different things that it was like a different like magic system.
I love how it's such a part of their culture also. Like their magic, how they use it like every single day for everything, and it's such a normal. They wash dishes with magic, like
That's like in Harry
Yeah.
Potter.
Yeah.
They use their wands for everything, or they can stir coffee with their fingers. Like,
oh, that's so cool. I love how it does.
I mentioned Harry Potter.
No, that's a wrong thing to say. Oh, I really like this book so much, and I haven't been able to talk about it. But I'm really excited.
I have a question. What did you guys think about the Whispering Blade? Like the energy that it took to make it, what it looked like, how effective it was. What did you guys think of that?
I think
was
it was
very-
very cool.
I thought it was really
Oh,
cool.
go.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very cool ability because, like I said, I like the magic system, and for me, it didn't feel like this basic elemental magic that you get to see in a lot of stories, because I think it was way more intricate, because all of those big warrior families in the Sword of Kaigen, this region, they have their own speciality. So Misaki comes from the Susanoo family, and they have this blood manipulation kind of thing going on, and then the Matsudas have the Whispering Blade, but not all of them, because it's very hard to master, and I really enjoyed that. And so for me, it felt like this kind of invisible slicey blade, and I was imagining it like in an anime or in a TV series or something, and I thought it looked really cool. Yeah,
I like that not everyone was going to be able to like produce a Whispering Blade. I like that aspect, that like it was like you had to be special to be able to do one. And we saw it with Takeru's father, how he wasn't able to do it and how that affected him and his like character. So I really like that. I really liked it. Yeah.
I really like the idea of that different lineages have different powers, because, well, the magic, like there's a lot of people that can use water. I don't know if all of them are water benders, or
I think they are.
I don't know if all of them, but it like different powers come from different lineages. From the Matsudas can do the Whispering Blade, the Susanos can manipulate blood, which I found really, really interesting.
I'd rather have that. Just saying.
That's evil.
Don't worry about
Kind
it.
of, right?
Don't worry about it. I imagined it the same way Laura did, as like an anime blade, and I kind of imagined like it being solid but also kind of liquid, and like sort of kind of always in motion. And
Yeah, same.
and I'm just as I'm picturing it in my head, I'm going, I want one.
I picture it like a really big thing. It's like a slice of water, like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
like really big, and like cutting.
I love your
everyone
sound
in half.
effects. Ah.
Oh, has anyone of you seen Demon Slayer, the anime?
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
like it.
so that one, it was really kind of felt like that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I didn't think of that.
I watched it and I didn't like it, so I didn't continue.
Oh, really? No.
Really?
Wow.
You? All right.
All right.
All right.
It's not expected. That's all.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you think about different topics that were talked? We have talked about like the aftermath of war, but something really interesting that I found, and I want to know what you think about it, is all the thing with Misaki's disconnection with her sons, and all the depression she got from miscarriage. I think it's really interesting how the author talks about these themes. I don't know what you think about them.
To me, it felt like she had postpartum depression, like way postpartum, and then it just it just kept going. She didn't have the connection with her kids. She didn't really have connection with anything. Like even in her own mind, she was disconnected with herself. So I don't know if maybe the author had postpartum depression or maybe just depression in general. But I think it was really well written. It was just really sad.
Yeah. I also think that because she didn't like her husband at all from the beginning when they started like their relationship, that she was like, all my kids feel like him because they're all made of ice and they have this cold Gia inside of them. And I think that was kind of the reason why she resented them in a certain way. And that only when so in the book, she started talking to Mamoru a bit more when he was like, oh yeah, I've discovered that our history is kind of not how it was. And that's when they begin to bond a bit. And she's like, oh, why didn't I do that sooner? And I think that this feeling that she felt kept her away from her children a bit. And that was really sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, and then when she discovered Mamoru's body, and she's like mourning over him, and she's like, it was like even like the little time we had was enough. Like it was just so sad, that part.
Don't make me cry.
You're gonna make me cry.
I have goosebumps thinking about it, and then I'm not even reading the book. So.
Oh, but
what
about what Laura said a second ago about how they all felt like him? Was it because she disliked him, or is it because she missed Robin because he was hot? She liked his heat. Do you think that could have played a role?
Yeah,
probably. I think so. What she loved most about Robin, because she was young, she wanted different things, and Robin gave her all the heat that she didn't have in her own home. And she fell in love with him, and then she had to leave him because she had to get married. So she missed him. And like everything felt foreign for her when she arrived to Takayubi, was the name of the village.
Yeah,
everything felt foreign for her because and disconnected. I mean, she didn't want this life. She chose it sort of, but she didn't want it. And I don't know. I really enjoyed. I think it was so well written because it doesn't show her disconnection with her sons in a judging way. It just shows how it is, and it's not. I don't know if you understand, but it's not judging her. I think it does a very good job in just showing how difficult it is for a woman sometimes when they don't have a connection with their children.
Yeah.
I don't know if it made sense.
It did.
I think for Misaki, it was especially hard because she didn't really have a connection with anyone. So she didn't have a connection with her husband, and they were not, because their culture, it is very distant in general. So you don't really get to express your emotions towards anyone, really. And it took her a while until her sister-in-law came along, and they connected. But until then, she didn't really have anyone, and I can only imagine how hard it must have been for her to not being able to talk to other people because her own family is very far away in a different city or different village. And she's in this house where her father-in-law, he resents her, and her husband isn't really that loving. And I think her brother-in-law, he doesn't really care about her at all.
He's drunk.
Yeah, but I really liked him. I really liked Takashi.
I thought he was great.
Yeah, I also liked the relationship between him and Setsuko, so I like those two. But yeah, poor Misaki. So I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. But on the other hand, she had to decide between going with Robin and just cutting the bonds to her family, or taking the way her family wanted for her and getting married, but being able to kind of have this connection to her family. And I don't know, this must be very hard for people. I mean, that's really, I wouldn't want to decide which path to take. So
Which path would you take if you had to choose?
I don't know.
It's hard because it's also the culture, because at the
Yeah.
end it was like her choice, but she did it because her dad thought that was the best for her. And she did it because she thought that she was doing the best for her family and she was protecting everyone. So I think it's hard. And she found herself in like a family where everyone's distant, no one's talking about their emotion, and no one, like, it's, and she came from a loving family. And you see her husband and his dad, it's a completely different, like,
polar opposites.
Yeah, exactly. So it must be like really hard for her to like go into this family, and then, like she said, she's far away from her family, and she did it because she thought that was the best decision to do.
I think that's what I meant when I said that it's really interesting how they show how difficult it is to actually cut ties with your culture. I think usually in fantasy, we see a lot of this rebel that, I'm going to rebel against my family. I'm going to go against everything I've been taught, and great. But this felt more real. You know what I mean? Like, this felt more real because it's not that simple. Yeah. It's not that simple to just cut your ties and go rogue or whatever. It has consequences, and she wasn't, she didn't want to deal with that consequence, and she made her decision, and she regretted that decision for many years. And I really I loved her arc, her whole arc in the book, because she started we started the book with her regretting her decision for like 15 years, and now and in the end of the book she got to a place that, but in this 15 years that I've been thinking that I shouldn't be here, I actually built a home.
Yeah.
And that was really good. I loved how it closed up.
That's why I didn't like the last chapter, like the part where she's saying like she still loves Robbins and she's still in love. Like, I don't know if she says she's still in love with him, but like she still loves him and she's always gonna love him. That's why I didn't like that part, because she got an arc when she was like finally okay with where she was, and she was finally having like an not like loving relationship, but like a better relationship with Takaru. And then Robin comes in and she's like, oh, but I still love you, and I didn't like that part.
I didn't like that either. I felt like it could have put the book on a completely different path. It's just like like you said, she made peace with it. She was finally coming to terms with it. She was changing her feelings about the situation, and then in comes like, boop, Robin. Crap. Like, I didn't like that. That was really annoying.
Yeah, it felt like if Takaru was to die, then she was going to go with Robin. It just. I don't know.
Definitely.
It felt like. I don't know. I didn't like that part.
She was planning her escape.
I didn't take it that way. I just thought it was very honest of her. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna stop loving him. It's just like the way it is. She just accepted it. I don't know. I mean,
but they were never really in a real relationship. I think she liked the idea of him and what he represented, but not necessarily like him itself. You know what I mean?
I disagree with that.
I don't agree.
I don't think that they were in like a full-on like we're together relationship, but there was definitely something there. Like when they talk about how like they kissed, and that's not something that her culture does, but it's something his culture does. But like she wanted to do it again. Like that's definitely they work together, but not together in the sense, because like you said, it's a culture thing. But I do think that him coming back into it can put something in her mind saying, well, what if maybe we could? But also with what Gabby said, she was being honest with herself. So I'm kind of torn.
Yeah, it didn't bother me that Robin appeared in the end, actually. Not at all. I think it was, I saw it coming somehow. I was like, okay, we've talked about Robin, like, throughout the book, like he has to show up at some point.
And just like, here's my child.
Yeah. I didn't love like the whole scene with Robin, but yeah, I think it was I saw it coming. I mean, it didn't surprise me. It was like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll talk about you. Like, show up, because I knew there were.
She's like, show up.
Yeah, but because I knew there were no more books. This was a standalone, so it was going to finish here. So I was like, you've talked to me about Robin this whole time, and then he's not gonna show up at some point. I don't know.
It just sounded very threatening. Show up.
Show up, Robin. Show up.
Oh.
I have a question for you guys. What did you guys think of I think it's Quan, his name, the little kid in the beginning? Because I actually really liked him, and I thought he was going to be more important to the story than what he actually is. But I just wanted to...
Absolutely. When he showed up and Mamori was kind of becoming his friend, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to be friends throughout the book. And then he kind of vanished and was never seen again.
Yeah.
Just to be like, oh yeah, make that phone call. Bye. I was so, okay, yeah, that's it. I think he could have done more because he was interesting.
I agree with
fell
you.
off the map after, like, before the battle, just like the battle started, and he fell off the map. I actually forgot that he existed for, I don't know, for a good chunk of the book.
Yeah, because he just disappears, and then he comes back just
disappears.
for that one scene, and then you're like, okay. And then he comes back a little bit after, but still, I thought he was going to be more present in the book in the beginning.
Mm.
He felt like a throwaway character. Like he was there and then he wasn't. Then he wasn't. And then when he comes back, because he was kind of like, he was a city kid and he didn't have any muscle, and he was just kind of, why are you here? And then he comes back and it's like he's really, toughened up a little bit. I'm like, okay, so what's the point? Is he gonna have a bigger role later? No. Like that kind of sucked. But I did really enjoy his character. I thought he was really cool. I thought he could have played a bigger part in the battle as well. Not like we didn't get to see his trek to make that to warn and make that call.
Oh yeah, that would have been interesting to see, because he's not one of those battle-hardened Matsuda family guys. He's just a guy.
How did he get away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he do it? Like, it was a freaking tornado.
I have a theory, and it's because Mamoru's uncle's Gia, when he died, it like busted everything around. That's another thing I like about the Gia, is that like when you die, like it causes chaos, and he was really strong. So maybe it just killed enough people for him to get by. Like, all right, well, he's dead, but I'm safe. Bye. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, talking about the battle, do you like the action scenes? I think she writes action scenes so well. I love how Misaki, when they are going to the house attacking, when hell breaks loose and the men are in the battle, and she is like hiding Setsuko and her children, and the guys come in, and she is just
she is so cool.
And she's so cool, and she like when she uses the hair ornament to kill this man, I was like,
Xena Warrior Princess. Say it with me. Xena Warrior Princess. Oh, I loved anything that had to do with fighting in battles, not just because it was well written, but it was kind of gory at the same time. Like, I felt like I was watching the blood splatter on the wall. Or when they were shooting the ice, stop laughing. When they were shooting the ice spears through the weather, like through the tornadoes, and like you can't see it, but you can hear it hitting the bodies. I was like, yeah, keep doing it.
Yeah, it was
very gory.
I didn't expect how gory it was.
I didn't either.
No.
But I
was like, oh, this is so sad. This is so horrible. This is interesting. And then, oh my God, this is dark.
Yeah. It also explained Momoru's reaction to it, which is why I liked it. How he, in his mind, he always believed he was going to be this big warrior because of his parents and his family. And then when he like see the reality of war and reality of a battle, then he has doubts. And I think that's why I really like the writing style, because it was gory, just enough so we could understand why Mamoru was he didn't like the battle scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have another question related to the battle. So the Ranganese, I think they were portrayed in a kind of evil way. And I felt like in the beginning we got, when Misaki talked about her former roommate, and she was like, no, they're not all that way. And then we get to see a bunch of them, and they are that way. They were like I don't know, the stereotypical evil people. I don't know. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, except like her friend that was Ranganese was a civilian, was her friend.
Yeah.
These were soldiers doing their country's duty. So that's the same thing when, troops from one country or another goes into another country and they do all these things and they become evil to those people. I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it through Mamoru's perspective also.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. Because then when Hiyori's son is born, and he is part Ranganese, right? Is he or she?
Yeah,
It's a she.
Right?
She.
It's a she. She's part Ranganese, and well, that sucks. Like that girl's life just sucks. But
Unfortunately,
terrible.
they could have done better by her.
But yeah, like she's not evil just because, and that's, they see them that way, and they are supposed to be seen that way because they are invaders. They went killing people in their houses. That's what the Takayubi people think about them. And but they are like any other army that invades. Like there are civilians on that army, on that country, that are good people. I don't know. I agree with Ariel on that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Okay. I think, I don't know if you have anything else that you guys want to talk about. I think we talk about most of the things that I had the points on, but I don't know if you guys want to talk about anything specific, or should we just wrap this up?
No, please read it. I don't know.
Go read it. It's really good.
I mean,
and for those of you who like audiobooks, the audiobook was great. The narration was fantastic.
Okay.
I mean, probably the people that are watching this already read it, and if not, we spoiled the entire book.
Yeah, sorry.
Go read it again, then.
I will say, Laura, this book for me, when I first finished it, I thought it was going to be like a 4-star, and then the more I sat with it, the more I liked this book. Like the more I thought about it, then that's when I realized I really, really liked that book. So maybe you'll change your mind.
Oh man, it was 5 stars for me. Like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe midway through, and then the last chapter, I was like, do we need this? And then at the end, I was like, no, but it's still 5 stars.
I had a question for you, because I know you felt like, Ariel, you felt like the beginning was a little bit slow. What was your turning point? When did you really start loving this book?
Laura's not gonna like this. We got to see when the flashback started. That's when I got into it. I was like, oh, she's a badass. Give it to me. Like I loved it. I loved it. Like so I listened to the first couple chapters of this while I was flying on a plane. And I was sitting there in the dark and everybody's cranky and I'm listening to this, and it could have just been because the books was so slow at first and I just needed something to engage me and get me out of my environment, and it didn't. That could have been why I didn't like it at first. But as soon as the flashback started, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And I will agree with this comment. This is a roller coaster of emotion, this book.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to read this book, but as my life is going crazy, I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to. But then Ariel just posted this picture in Instagram, and she was like, "Oh, I love this book so much," and it's like, okay, I will have to read it. And I ate it up like in 5 days or less.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 days.
4
Yeah,
days
you read it
that I
really
read it.
quickly.
It was like, oh my God. And I couldn't stop. And I think one day I read like 200 pages. Easy. I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah. No, but I was the same. I liked it from the beginning, but there was definitely a turning point where I just couldn't, like, after Momo was dead, I just couldn't put the book down. I had to know what was going to happen. So, yeah, I get you.
Oh, that part's so sad.
It's probably one of the most beautiful, like, beautifully written death scene that, like, I have ever read.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes.
Ugly crying.
It was so moving. Ugly crying, yeah.
Ugly crying all the way
Seriously.
through. Terrible.
From that part to, like, yeah.
I did a lot of crying in this book. I really did. Most of it while cleaning.
Yeah.
I can't sit and listen to audiobooks, so I only really listened to it when I was moving around. So when you're moving around trying to, like, wash dishes or fold laundry and you're also sobbing, like,
oh
no. Yeah.
I was sitting there, and then I closed the book. Well, I closed my Kindle, and I was like, what I couldn't stop crying. I was thinking about the book. Then I went to take a shower. I think I was like,
ugly crying in the shower.
No, yeah.
I mean, I had headphones on that hung around my neck, and the part where they start, like, she sees Momoro's body, like, in the pit, like, with other bodies on top of him. I took my headphones out and I was like, no, and I just paused my phone and walked away. Nope.
No,
yeah.
Yes, house chores and sobbing is no. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. I will read for sure some other of her books. I don't know if I'm going to read her other series, but anything else that she comes up with, I will for sure pick up.
She's writing. She's writing one right now. She's in the middle, and I think she's publishing because she has a newsletter, and she's publishing like chapters of that book.
Ooh.
Something like that. I didn't understand because I subscribed to her newsletter.
And you're going to send us that information? Yeah.
I
think it's so funny that I love this so much, and at first I didn't even want to read it. And
I remember.
I was like, I'm like, I don't want to read this, and then I loved it. So that should show if there's a book you're like, meh, maybe give it a go. Just because it could be one of your favorite books you've ever read in your life.
Yeah, and for all the hype that this book is getting, I loved it. Like, sometimes when our books are like really hyped, then it's a little bit of a disappointment. This book, I heard like some amazing things about it, and then I read it and I loved it as much. So it lived up to the hype for me.
Where did you hear about it? Because I hadn't heard about it until it was like a suggestion.
It's well, I was part of the Olympics tweet-a-thon for the month of June. And a few people were saying how this book was amazing in like my whole like discussion group. Well, that's why.
It happened to me. I follow Murphy Napier a lot. Like I love her channel, and she one day she was like, she was reviewing that book, and I put I was working and I put my headphones, and she was gushing about this book so hard that I was like, I need to read this thing.
Yeah, it's
and then I started like watching other reviews to see if maybe it was my taste or not. And everyone was like, her character work is so good, her writing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I need to read it. I'm so glad I did.
See, in my travel vlog, I say that maybe it's just not for me. And I look back at saying that and going, wow, was I wrong?
Yeah, that's why I like reading vlogs. You really see the evolution of your thoughts on the book. Because sometimes the book starts and you don't like it, and then it ends up being one of your favorite books.
That's why I try not to DNF it. If it's really bad, then I'll DNF something, but I try not to DNF anything for that reason.
I have a hard time DNFing as well.
I cannot DNF. I actually just listened to an audiobook, like really, it was really bad, but I couldn't stop listening because I was like, I have to finish this. Why?
Did you guys watch The Page Master as children? The movie The Page Master?
No.
Oh my god.
No.
Oh my god. So it's a story about a boy who's afraid of everything, and he gets caught in a library in a rainstorm, and then he gets sucked into like an imaginary library, so it's all cartoons, and all the books are helping him get to the exit, and the books are like, take me with you, like I want to get out, I want to be read. So that stuck with me as a kid and an adult. So when I pick up a book, it's like read me.
Yeah,
So finish me. So then, like, I feel like the book. This is so stupid. I feel like the book is going to be upset if I don't finish it. Okay, I need you all to Google the Page Master and watch it because it's
What an
Okay.
analogy. Oh.
Yeah, but I like it. I like it. Oh. Oops.
What happened?
What happened? Okay. Well, I think we're going to end this here. Thank you guys so much for joining us if you guys watched. And everyone's link will be in the down bar below. And also our Discord group. If you want to join us for July, we are reading the... wait, what are we reading? The Emperor Blade. The Emperor Blade. That's what we're reading.
I'm not reading it with you because I can't get it. So, sorry.
It's hard to get. Like it was so long
Really?
everywhere. I had to buy it on my Kindle, but it's fine.
It's not on. It's not at my library, so I'm out of luck.
One last thing. It is a really cute reason to not DNF books. I like it. I'm going to use
I
that
like
from
it.
now on.
Kudos for you.
Yay, I'm cute. So,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
bye.